Hello, Abigail here with the astrology of this week. And this week is that moment between eclipses when anything and everything can and probably will happen. Not to say that the eclipses themselves aren't major events, but I find that the portal of time between those weeks, specifically depending on what day they fall on, that kind of week in the middle between those moments, is something extra special. And on top of that, we have some pretty earth shaking, transformative astrology. And then that leads into next week, which is jam packed with astrological significance. That final Aries eclipse, that Aries eclipse is at 9 degrees, where Mercury stationed retrograde. Mars is at the same degrees of that Aries full moon back in 2024. So just know that these next few days and weeks are exceptional astrologically. They are not normal. They are big moments that we're going to look back on and, I think kind of recognize them for what they were, even if in the moment it doesn't feel that way or it's just too much to process. And that kind of leads into don't force yourself to process this as a big moment. Don't force yourself to be exceptional. In this exceptional astrology, the energy will do the work. You just need to be honest and gentle with yourself in whatever is occurring in your life. Because exceptional astrological times are energetically draining and require us to, even if we're not doing a massive amount, it still takes a massive amount. So whether you're doing a lot, doing a little, doing nothing, doing everything, try to take it easy this week. Try to give yourself time to really digest and process this energy. Also, if stuff is happening, let it happen. You're not really going to be able to stop it. It's about you taking care of yourself in whatever circumstance you're in rather than you altering that circumstance, at least now. You're going to be able to change and shift things once we're on the other side. So, not this week, not next week, but the week after. Things are going to start to feel more pliable in your own hands. But with eclipse energy, there's just really, at least from my perspective, there's really nothing you can do. And there's actually a really rich, deep freedom in that, in not being responsible for everything and knowing that in this you can simply only do your best. And one of the main things that I think can be considered your best at this time is rest, is taking downtime. Don't try to fill every moment with something to do, which is something that you can feel necessary in these times to like try to match pace with the eclipses. It's not going to happen. They will outrun you every time. So before we get into the kind of the meat of this week, give yourself some rest, give yourself some repose. If that's not going to work for you, then give yourself some joy and some fun and some play. But yeah, don't try. I actually enjoy it because in the eclipses, I kind of remove pressure to perform, and remove pressure as a witch to practice anything major or to do anything major. And it is really freeing, and also I find sweetly anti-capitalist to release the need to produce, especially during eclipses. All right, so getting started, we are start off Monday with the Sun conjunct the North Node. This is a really gorgeous moment. It is this peek into possibility, into the future. It is also a moment where we might get an illumination of the path ahead. We're still in a water sign, so it might not be a crisp view into the future, but it is definitely a perspective shift, a moment to recognize that this moment isn't all that there is, that this moment isn't the only moment that we have to exist in, that there are moments of expansion and joy and magic far down the road and also just a few steps down the road. I love the North Node energy. It's like Neptune, especially in Pisces. It's really hard to put into words. Um, the type of magic that it contains. But this is an opportunity to look forward. This is also an opportunity, if you do any past life work, to really release some of the bonds of the past some bonds we are, tied to and committed to completing this lifetime, so they're not going away. But there are some bonds that we've just been holding on to, that we've just been carrying with us either through guilt or shame or a need to, do and be more, and maybe even um try to fulfill someone else's past life purpose for them. You can't. So it's the time to let go of those things, let go of the need to protect other people from their choices, let go of the need to be more than you need to be so that you can be everything to everyone else. um, it is a beautiful, rich moment. Because it is such a big moment, it is going to ripple out. So you don't have to seize the day Monday, um, but believe in more than you have now. Believe in more than whatever struggle is facing you. Believe in more than, speaking to myself, than the overwhelm of this moment. Um, and also, ask yourself, what do you want? What do you truly want? And at least for me, it doesn't really work out if I put it into like physical form, but ask yourself how you want to feel, how you want to feel moving forward, how you want to express yourself moving forward. Um, if you want to feel joy and ease and peace, I find that that creates a much broader scope for manifestation than manifesting something really hyper specific. Now, there are some people who are meant to be hyper specific manifestors, and that is fine. If that is you, do your thing. But for those of us who are not, for those of us who have been called to kind of trust the not knowing and just going on that instinct of emotional truth, you know, ask yourself what you emotionally need for the rest of your life, for the next 2 years, for the next 20 years. Um, I know, especially people who are kind of hitting their 40s and 50s, the future is incredibly scary with like retirement and things like that. You don't, so what you set up in the next few years, if you are going to have to continue to work, and this feels very specific for some very specific people, so if this is not you, just don't pay attention to it. Start to really hone in on things that are doable as you age, doable as you continue to mature, desirable as you progress, something that you can be proud of and enjoy, and it doesn't need to be societally elevated. It can just be that special little thing for you, and then find a way to make it work with you, knowing that you are going to shift and change very, especially physically in the next 10 to 20 years. And honestly, this can go for everyone. It's just you have more time to build that if you are younger. But it's something I'm seeing with my clients. Like, how can I create a whole enriching life while balancing late stage capitalism, while balancing my desires, while no longer wanting to be a wage slave. So this Sun conjunct the North Node is that moment to project and dream and manifest. And now, are you going to see it get legs tomorrow? No, but the energy between eclipse portals definitely kicks things into high gear. So it's a good time for manifesting those dreams and desires. I know some people say don't manifest during eclipses and go crazy, but I think with the emotional manifesting, I don't have those concerns. And then moving into Wednesday, we have the Sun conjunct Neptune. And once again, I'm up against my perennial problem of verbalizing Neptunian things. There are Neptunian people who are uniquely built through their natal chart to speak to Neptune. And while I can do it in a roundabout way, and the more I build a relationship with Neptune, the more I find an ease in expressing it. But as a very literal earth heavy person, sometimes with an earth Neptune, sometimes I do struggle to feel that I've expressed it well enough. And maybe that's part of the problem. Maybe I need to just trust. Probably is just me needing to trust. But this is a moment, and because we are in such a close conjunction with the North Node, this kind of pulls it in. It's a moment for dreams. It's a moment for getting in touch with the unseen. It's a time to kind of light up the unspoken parts of self. I also feel that a lot of people are going to be experiencing or are currently experiencing massive spiritual shifts and changes, and their spiritual and kind of otherworldly horizons are expanding and blooming in this moment, especially as Neptune is at that 29th degree, that anaretic degree, before it moves into Aries on April 1st. And of course, it's going to retrograde back because we can't just go forward. Um, but this is a really sweet moment to be like, what sweeter, more precious, higher, more elevated existence is there within the mundanity of life. You don't need to abandon the day to day in order to have a rich and beautiful spiritual life that involves things that require a higher consciousness, or I don't like the term higher consciousness, but you know what I mean, an expanded consciousness. Um, that you can, some of the most, I think, powerful people you'll meet are kitchen witches and hedge witches and folk witches, and they're able to do and to imbue magic in the most simple things and work in the smallest ways and yet have the highest expansion. Neptune isn't asking you to escape the world. Neptune is asking you how to, well, as above, so below, how to bring heaven to earth and earth to heaven and create that beautiful cycle. And maybe you're not called to be a hedge witch or a kitchen witch. I'm not one. I'm not even a folk witch. But it is important to never forget that Neptune isn't just that massive expansion. Neptune can also be brought into the finer things, the smaller things. And that's actually kind of the South Node in Virgo, isn't it? Um, So you can have those expanded moments in those tiny things. And you can have those tiny things in those expanded moments. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. If Neptune is everything unspoken and all of these, you know, ideas and concepts and existences that have no beginning or end, that also includes breathing, you know, that also includes washing your hands. It's just a different way of looking at it. It's also the very beautiful kind of essence of Pisces and Virgo, kind of everything and expansion and all of the tiny little twiddly little details over in Virgo, and they work together really well once you no longer hold one elevated over the other. And that's also how oppositions work. Then we move in onto Thursday, which is the 20th. Y'all, it is the spring equinox. I could not be more happy. I'm a spring baby. I love the spring. This is a unique one because it is falling in this eclipse portal. It is in this moment of massive shifts and expansion and change. And then we have the magic of the spring equinox within it. It's like growth on steroids. And I think this is going to be a very riotous spring, very chaotic. It also reminds me that a lot of our national parks and our trees and our flowers and our very ecosystems are at risk right now. They're always at risk. We're always fighting for them, but a lot of things have been pushed through recently where they want to cut old growth forests and they want to destroy the very magic that the spring equinox embodies, the power of the earth. And what a lot of people don't know is it's not just the destruction of thousands of year old trees. It is destruction of the root systems. It will decimate the soil. It will kill off animal populations. And it feels very eclipsy that we're in this moment moving into the spring, into the rebirth of life and nature. Obviously everything is under the surface and still alive in the winter, but now we get to spring forth. So this is just my call to you. If you haven't done anything to express your solidarity with the earth and your anger at what is happening, harness this eclipse energy, harness the rage of the Aries new moon eclipse, that solar eclipse, and also enjoy the spring and take advantage. And this is speaking to myself because I'm a homebody with chronic illness. Where you can take advantage of the spring, get close to nature, sit with the flowers. I think also in this society, we are often separated from youth and from children and from teenagers as adults. And I'm not saying, go find random children and teenagers, but if you have any children or teenagers in your life, don't have to be your own. Maybe find some time for them, or maybe send them a blessing or something. It is important that we're all interconnected. You do not have to want to have kids to believe that children deserve human rights. Children are some of the most underrepresented. They have the least honest, well, just to be frank, they have the least human rights along with disabled people. So just be aware of that. And even if children can be frustrating and trying, they are a part of our community. And in this moment of spring where it is children and baby animals and birth and fertility, don't forget the children in your magic. Don't forget the babies in your magic. And they can be baby animals, they can be baby plants, they can be baby spirits, which are my particular speciality. But yeah, enjoy the spring equinox. Include everyone in your celebration. Um, the how to put this? The cruelty of capitalism is that it blames the most weak and vulnerable for the very real and disgusting problems that the elite have created. So don't turn your rage on children. Don't turn your rage on that baby on the plane who's crying. Don't turn your rage on that teenager who's being disrespectful or rude or, something, whatever, in public. You are an adult. They deserve to hear you. They deserve your support. Anyways, off of my soapbox. And you don't ever have to want to be a parent. I'm not saying you need to have kids or you need to be a parent. That is not for everyone. I 100% believe. But do not abandon children in your pursuit of justice. They are your equals. Anyways, now that I'm off of my Aries Venus conjunct Ceres soapbox, then we end up on Saturday with Venus sextile Pluto. This is Venus retrograde sextile Pluto. This is a really dark, rich moment. This is the moment where secrets get revealed. It is a moment where our true desires, Venus retrogrades to me are very essentially about values. And this is a value call. What do you value? Where do you place your power and your desire and your longings? And are they being met? Are you in a situation where you're getting those met? And the question is, do I stay, do I go, per se, but how do I get those needs met? And yes, is this situation, is this relationship, is this circumstance the way that that is going to happen? Maybe yes, maybe no. When I do tarot readings for stay, go, relationship type questions, it's never usually how do I leave? It is should I stay? Should I go? And then we read those two paths. That is, of course, in the exception of abusive situations. Um, but, ask yourself, what will a different path bring me? What will staying on this path bring me on this Saturday? What do I need? Where are my desires taking me? And are they the desires that I want to carry me through? And then later that day, we end up with Sun conjunct Venus. So we're getting kind of this feedback of Sun, Pluto sextile Venus, Pluto sextile the Venus, Pluto sextile happens first, then the Venus conjunction. Then on Sunday, we're going to get that Sun, Pluto sextile. It is about our vitality and the Sun conjunct Venus. What spaces have gotten too small for us? And what spaces are willing to grow with us and they just need a little nudge? And what spaces are just simply too small and too shallow and not deep enough for our roots to grow deep down into? Um, it's kind of like buying a plant from the grocery store. That little pot is just the right size for whatever their root is now, usually. And if you don't replant it soon, that plant will get root bound and it will struggle. Where are you in your growth and how big is your pot? Me using plant metaphors in spring. So think about that. And then with that Sun sextile moment with Pluto, it is really asking where we're going and what we want. I love sextiles because they do kind of gently come in and remind us of things. It's not as big as a square or a trine. It is more of a conversation than a confrontation with a sextile. And so ask yourself what your desires are, and especially considering where they're at. Pluto in Aquarius, Aries with the Sun and Venus. This is that drive for self and desire and craving need. And then Pluto in Aquarius is this kind of collective momentum and force and the uncovering of, you know, individual sins and crimes. So I do love sextiles because also there's always this dichotomy between each sextile. You wouldn't really conflate Aquarius with anything, Martian, but within that, there is this beautiful conversation between this deep individuality and this deep need for connection with everything. And so ask yourself about your connections, ask yourself about your communities, ask yourself about how your individual needs fit into a more expanded container. You don't have to go it alone because you are deeply individual, and you don't have to lose yourself into collective. We've been lied to that you either get one or the other. It is, in fact, the working together of our individuality with others' individuality that makes things special. And I saw a post, which I was thinking about when I was talking about children a few minutes ago, that community building is the ability to endure being annoyed. It is the ability to navigate complex relationships and to be okay with not always getting your way, and also be okay with other people making mistakes. And so, because I know Aries can be both deeply annoying and also easily annoyed, as I have many Aries placements. Um, and it's living between that in the context of a wider experience. And learning how to set boundaries is one of those things. So set boundaries this season, especially as we are still with Venus and Aries. Once we go into an exalted Venus, I do think there's going to be more of a processing of things, more of a kind of recognizing disappointment versus kind of being in this fighting phase, this resistance and having to pull things in and being frustrated and stuff. So enjoy this last little bit that we get to have with Venus and Aries. And they'll be back, obviously, as we come back through, but in the retrograde state, no. So that is the astrology for this week. Next week, was looking at my notes and I was like, damn. So just know that while this week it has its own unique kind of big moments, and I think the beautiful burst of energy of the spring equinox next week, and I don't want to be like doom and gloom, but it is going to be a lot. Mars is starting to hit certain degrees that it was at before and going back into squares with in that square with Chiron. There's a lot going on. Venus re-enters Pisces, that eclipse. So just know that we are building up to another eclipse. The week kind of goes down and then back up again. Anyways, my loves, if you have any questions, please ask them in the comments. I love hearing from you. As always, if you enjoy this, if you find that this aligns with you, please like and subscribe. It makes my day and gives me a nice little boost as I continue to create content. Anyways, have a blessed week, and I will see you all in a different space and time.